just explain exactly what is going on here, because this is quite a complicated timeline. The neighbours to Niger, other West African nations, say you have to reinstate the country's elected president. Why was he moved in the first place?
He was moved last week by first the Presidential Guard, and then in a move that was backed up by the leadership of the Nigerian army. They said they'd got rid of him because of the deteriorating security situation in Niger. It's one of the Sahel countries that have been battling a decade-long insurgency. But it looks more likely that they were essentially power hungry and had been shut out of, financial and other support that's coming in from the West. So it looks like they got rid of him for internal reasons. They've used the excuse of the insurgency, but now we have a situation where the temperature is definitely rising. This is part of a spate of coups that the region has seen since 2020. We're now into our seventh, but this one's particularly significant because France and the US had backed Niger as their last ally in the region. So if Niger, if it's confirmed that Niger is now run by a junta, it will hugely destabilize the region, and so countries in West Africa are very keen to overturn it, as is France.
And what about the public mood?
Well, it's interesting. In lots of these cases, we've seen protesters come out in support of coups, and we've seen that again this time. Yesterday, pro-coup protesters waved Russian flags on the streets of Niamey, the capital, as they had last week, tried to storm the French embassy, got to the wall and set fire to the wall before being repelled. There is clearly an amount of anti-French sentiment and pro-Russian sentiment in the region. We've seen the Wagner Group come into countries in Africa. Yes, I mean, so there is some popular backing for this. I'm sure there are those as well who are, staying at home and wished that the civilian president would stay in power. But it's a very volatile situation.
You said that it was the sixth or the seventh such incident in the region since 2020. What underpins all of these, or is it always something different?
No, I think we can see it as part of a pattern. A lot of these countries are facing the same problems. The insurgency that I talk about has uprooted millions of people in this Sahel region that borders the Sahara. Lots of these countries were run by aging presidents who many felt had overstayed their welcome. And I think what's clear from the threat of military intervention by ECOWAS, the regional bloc, is there is a real palpable fear now among countries that are ostensibly more stable in the region, that this spate of coups, this epidemic, could spread beyond these Sahel countries into places like Nigeria, whose new president is the new head of ECOWAS. Obviously, Africa's most populous country, its largest economy, a real powerhouse of the continent, which borders Niger and which has two separate conflicts, the Boko Haram conflict and a banditry conflict going on that border. Let's see what happens. They've given the junta 7 days to reinstall the president, and it's going to be a tense few days, I think.